Hi guys, my name is Alex Cook. I am arguing for the pro side of the environmental debate. Um, so while economic development and growth are vitally important both to access to resources and the quality of life for the world's population, if it goes unchecked and uncapped, and populations are permitted to grow without constraint, there won't be a planet for future generations to have those same opportunities. Economic development has been a blessing and a curse, paving the way for the seemingly endless production of food, infrastructure, and the various other means of survival. However, if environmental considerations are not made and taken seriously, both at an international and a local level, many of these renewable resources will become finite and eventually non-existent. Development comes at a price, and that price is our future. Some obvious arguments, especially in the area where economic development is concerned, is cost and money. Those are both the driving factors behind economic development. So, for instance, the cost of rebuilding and supporting states that are affected by climate change and climate disaster, the cost and the urgency of finding alternative fuel sources, especially once it's too late. It's going to be a global race, and it's going to cost endless amounts of funds and money. The cost of goods and services that will likely increase due to the scarcity of the resources needed to produce them. We've seen that with inflation in oil prices and the inflation of food prices. We also have the argument that global health is affected. So the increased air and water pollution from the industrialization practices, especially in countries like India and China, are affecting not only their population's health, but global health as well. Water contamination and pollution is affecting crops and making for disastrous failures of crop farming and agricultural products, costing the world billions of dollars, especially in their local communities. However, for this particular argument, I wanted to focus more on the increasing potential for conflict in the areas that are greatly affected by climate change. So the UN issued some literature on this topic specifically, and in one of the articles it states that disasters, particularly those associated with drought and desertification, are more likely to contribute to conflicts over limited natural resources than any other type of conflict. So we saw that in the documentary on Bolivia and how rioting and rebellion took hold when the government decided to privatize their water supplies. So that also leads to an argument in a discussion over whether water should be a private or public resource, but that's for another day. But this was a means to help the country develop economically. The government took this under their initiative to help the country be a greater presence and return some more revenue. As climate change continues to evolve, phenomena like desertification continues to reduce the amount of arable land and therefore reduce the amount of food that can be produced, especially in some of the world's poorest nations and hungriest nations, and that's typically in Western Africa, countries like Ghana, Niger, Chad, and then most closely related to this course specifically, we have Darfur. So Darfur is typically seen as more of a political conflict, but lots of the underlying and main reasons for such struggle, from what I've researched, were the desertification of the arable land in the Western African region. It led to thousands of refugees roaming across borders, tensions increasing over who had control and territorial use of the land, struggle to gain access and control to the arable land in an unstable climate, and it bred violence and struggle. Ultimately, our global policy of expansion over conservation it's not working, and it's hurting those that are marginalized and those people who are pro-development are claiming to try to help. It's costing lives, it's costing money. It seems counterintuitive, and it needs to be adjusted to consider sustainability as a way to improve the quality of life for both those who are already on the planet and for future generations. We can develop and develop and develop economically, but we will eventually develop ourselves into extinction. either by running out of resources or by our own hands in the fight to control or secure what little resources we have left.